Thank you for joining the Lunch Chats podcast presented by Vital Integrators. I'm Paul Mancuso, your host. And today with me, I want to make sure I get this right. You gave me this to me to say, so I want to make sure I do my intro correctly. But our guest today is the man, the myth, the legend, follower of Christ, renowned worship leader, world's best national anthem performer.
Let's go.
And the president of the Michael Jordan is the GOAT fan club. And most importantly, one of my best friends, Donnie Bolden Jr. Thank you for joining me today. So if anybody knows you, they know that's probably not true, right? What part?
False.
What part's false?
Well, look. Let me put it this way. I am a huge Michael Jordan fan.
Okay.
But right now, to me, he's not the GOAT. I'm just being real.
I wanted to start that off with this because if you get the controversy going, maybe we'll keep our viewers for a little while.
Right. So. Now he's one of the GOATs. Let me look at the camera. He's one of the GOATs. But to be honest with you, like we here now, but man, LeBron is the best player that ever touched the basketball.
Well, I can't really argue that point because I don't watch basketball very much. But I do know I see you on social media a lot, and you like to argue about who's the GOAT, and you have some pretty good facts there, right?
Yeah, I just like to debate and, just kind of get my point across. That's about it.
So I guess I do have some questions along those lines, though.
Okay.
That I want to ask you, and,
Okay.
Coming from that, why do you – so I guess my first question is, what is your argument? Why is LeBron James better than Michael Jordan?
Well, I want to say this, Mike in his own right, and also Kobe is in that argument as well. Kobe was actually what we would call the remake of Michael Jordan. So I kind of put him in that same category. But when LeBron came along, you look at a person that could play, and you don't know basketball, but listen, I'm going to teach you a little something.
That's right. Teach me.
So you have 5 positions: point guard, shooting guard, small forward, you know what I'm saying? Goes on up to center, right? LeBron is the only person that could play every position successfully. Every position. And I also go back to the time when Mike played, no knock on any of the players. You didn't have the type of players that back then that played this in this time. Like, it was tough. You was getting knocked out of the air. It was tough. It was tough. But in this era, these players here could shoot the ball. They could dribble. They are more athletic. So that's the reason why. And it's not even about the trophies and the rings to me. Like, man, they got so many great players that never won. Like, that should have won, but they never did. To me, that shows that it takes a team to win that championship. They love giving it to one player, but it takes a team to win that thing, man. So, yeah.
Well, I'm sure the comment section is going to be full of all the reasons why you're wrong.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on.
I don't know. I can't articulate an argument for or against. All I know is whenever I was growing up, to me, Michael Jordan was the greatest. And, of course, I haven't watched basketball since he retired, honestly. So I can't really tell you and speak intelligently.
He's a bad man, bro. He's a bad man, bro.
But, Donnie, I do want to talk to you and really get to know Donnie Bolden, right?
Yeah.
And, I know you've got a lot of insight and things that you've done in your life. And I just really want to talk about let's go back. Let's go way back to when you were growing up, okay?
Wow.
I want you to describe your childhood environment for me and the community that you grew up in.
Well, first of all, me and LeBron grew up together.
Okay, so now I know why he's the GOAT.
No, man, listen. No, man. So, man, growing up from a young baby, my mom and dad, they were not saved. And they told me this. I don't remember it, but they told me this was type of environment I grew up in. They say I used to walk out the yard in the front yard and just curse people out passing in cars. That's what type of house I lived in. Like, so it was a lot of cursing.
And where did you grow up? Where was that at?
Abbeville, Louisiana.
So that's where you still are, right?
Yep, 522 Messina Street.
Well, maybe we shouldn't put your address out there for
everybody.
No,
I'm not there no more.
So they can go find you, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, so that's that's where I grew up, man, in a rough side of town. Growing up, over time, my mom eventually gave her life to Christ, and then my dad, and
I know a little bit about kind of the later years of that, and you've shared some things with me personally about your mom. But at what age were you when they kind of found Christ, and how did that affect you? What did you follow in their footsteps because of that, or did it take you a few years? What was that story?
So I want to say like I was around 2 years old, and from what I just told you about, me in a diaper cutting up, saying words I heard, and then I want to say around 5 years old. That's when they were really going strong, as far as ministry and everything. And I remember being in church, and that's when I really kind of knew where I was and the environment. It was safety. It was, I felt the presence of God at a very young age. I remember one time my mom praying for me, and I could just see like just crystals and stars. It was weird, but yeah, I want to say around between 5 and 8 years old when I first experienced the presence of God.
Gotcha. So, at what point do you feel like you felt the presence of God at 5? But obviously, anybody that knows you today can just see the hand of God on your life, right? I mean, they can see the blessings that you have and the gifting that you have to lead with people in worship. Where do you feel like, or what age do you feel like you really felt that calling, like an actual calling to ministry?
8 years old.
8 years old. All right.
8 years old.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting at we used to have an upright piano in our church, and I remember God gave me this song, and just sitting down at the piano. It was an upright piano that my dad and them bought from a rummer sale. They love their rummer sales, right? So, and we put it up in the church, and I wrote my first song called, it was entitled "Jesus is the Light of My Life," and that's when I really just felt like, man, music is my thing, man. Music, I just love how it makes me feel. I love where it brings me. So yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second. Is it? And I know, I think I know the answer to this question, but is it? Do you feel more connected with music, or is it more of a connection with worship?
So,
or both?
Man, that's such a good question, because nowadays, I think it's an ingredients of both. Like, a lot of people say that there's a difference, but I think both of them have to coexist. Like, I believe that there's a side to music, because music was created, man, by God, man. It's all God anyway. But worship is something different. Like, man, when you connect worship with music and you understand the reason why you're doing it for that one person that you're in love with, that one person that you have a relationship with and connection with, it makes it so much more beautiful. So I think that there's a separation there, because a lot of people don't separate them. But God made music just like he made everything else. But worship is just to glorify God. It's for him alone. I believe it's for him alone.
And I know, we've had a lot of time that we've spent traveling the last couple of years together.
It's been fun.
It has been fun. It's been fun. A lot of work. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And one of the things, Donnie, that you may not know, and maybe you do, I think I may have mentioned this to you before, but the genuineness that you have is very much a blessing. Like, you're not there. Like, whenever we're doing sound check, man, I've seen it sometimes where you're up there doing your sound check, and you got a tear rolling down your cheek. Yeah. You're going all out, just like the building is full with 4,000 or 5,000 people. Yeah. And it really is what you said. It's the audience of one, and I really feel like you live your life that way.
Right.
Which I think is a statement and a testament to kind of the blessings and the doors that have been opened for you.
Right.
Just from being faithful, right?
And the thing is, bro, I've had a lot of practice. Like, I've had a lot of practice, man. Like, I've sung before just one person. I've sung before thousands before. Like, and every time I sing, I'm reminded of who I'm singing for, the reason, and it takes me to that place, just like when I was at that piano. I just felt the presence of God all over me, and it reminds me every time I sing, I'm singing for one. And when people begin to see that you're singing for one, and you're not singing to get them riled up or get them all excited, they begin to feel that, and they say, like, well, hold up, let me get to that place where he is, and that's why I do it the way I do it, man. Like you said, I don't care who's in there. I just want to give God the glory in everything I give, everything.
And I think that's, like I said, I've seen it. It's not just something that's on a Sunday morning. Like, you live this out, and I think it's a blessing. It's a definitely something that I enjoy watching, even from a distance. And you'll never know. And I've told you this: you never know the blessing that you are to me.
Wow, man, I appreciate you.
And
man.
just being able to see kind of someone that's actually living out what they say and what they talk and things like that. But let's go back to you when you were 8. You felt God's presence on your life. Do you feel like there was any, we kind of have a similar story as far as, my family kind of grew up, I grew up in church. I didn't know a time where we didn't attend church. So from a very young age, that's kind of all I remember. It's all I knew. And it's been an interesting transition, just seeing kind of how much the church as a whole has changed, how much America has changed, all that stuff. But, when you were 8, which that was only, 20, 25 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But when you were 8, obviously it's interesting to have this conversation today. But being that you grew up in the church, what were some of the struggles or the things that you kind of noticed and saw that kind of helped formulate your thoughts and your outlook on life, I guess?
Man, oh my God. There's so many things, man, that I can get into and go into. But I want to say this. Over my years being in ministry, I've seen a lot. And most of it taught me, I want to say, to just kind of run my own race, man. Like, the Bible, man, some people take it so, when I look at some people, they take the Bible in such a wrong way. Like, I really don't want to get into that as well, but like the way some people read it and depict it is really not about that. It's really about just guiding us. And I used to be so hard on myself, and then I used to watch others, how they make everything so hard, man. The Bible is simple, man. Walk like Christ, love like Christ, be like Christ, give of yourself like Christ. And watching some of those things, man, as I grew up in church and in ministry, as the older I got, the more I started to understand it. Like, man, it's really not that hard. It's really not, and I know everybody have their own judgments and own way of thinking. Most of it is, under doctrines or whatever it is. But I've just learned, man, look, love like Christ, live like Christ, be like Christ, you know what I'm saying, the best way you can.
That's the very simplest way to explain the gospel message,
right? I'm serious, man. Like, I'm serious. Because if we get into that, we'll probably it'll take about 5 different podcasts, right? Like, I'm serious. What I've learned, bro, because I was one of those cats. When I would read the Bible, I was very judgmental. I'm just being honest.
What you mean by that?
So if you didn't do what my church was doing, something wrong with you.
Okay. All right.
Let me just be real, right? And then I started getting them like, hold up. When you start, let's go ahead. Well, we're going to put it out like Shannon Sharp now. We're going to put it out. And Cat Williams, we're going to tell it like it is. And I would see somebody, because all of our women wore skirts at our church. We are holiness church. I'd be like, well, if they wearing pants, they not living right. Or just that one example, man. And
has that changed over the years?
For me or church?
Both.
For me, it has changed. I don't look at it like, I don't look at it. I just don't. I don't think you're going to hell because you wear pants. I'm just being honest, man. I believe that, people do what they want. God looks on the content of the heart. He looks at the inside of the heart. But But guess what? I don't knock nobody because they want to do it.
Gotcha.
Or they was raised up in a church that does it. You know, even at my church, that's what we were raised up on, our ministry. And like, I have no problem. But if somebody else doing it, that's between them and God. That's how I look at it. Back then, I thought I had something to do with it to make sure I fixed them. You got what I'm saying? Now I realize, man, that is not my job. My job is not to fix nobody. My job is just to live the life and do the best I can. I want to make it into heaven. That's about it.
Look, I say that all the time. I will take the doghouse in the corner. Just get me there.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a, messed up thing to think about. Like, obviously I want to do the best that I can, but I know that all of our righteousness are as filthy rags, right?
Yeah,
so it's like, I will take whatever I can, to obviously,
And let me say this, bro. I met some of the most greatest women pastors that don't dress per se like our women do or whatever, man. And they have such a great heart for God. I've seen it with my own eyes, man. So that's what changed me,
Now Abbeville obviously is a smaller community. I know there's a lot of economic issues there. There's a lot of kind of hardship in that community. How's that been, I guess, and since you grew up there, how have you seen, like, what was it like growing up as a black man in not only that community, but the church? Because I find that a very interesting dynamic that, we see race relations today, and what it seems like it should have been worse back then. Is that like, what was the environment like for you? Like, what's your experience?
My experience was good, but I believe there's a line there that needs to be discussed, because you can tell, the difference. Like, you can feel when it's for the black community, you can feel when it's for other communities, and you can feel when they want to make change and when they don't want to make change, or they'll throw out, hey, well, this community don't need this community needs this, and you could just kind of tell. And like you said about our community, I believe that it's suffering because we don't look at each other on that same level. Some of the higher parties, they'll look at you when they're ready for your vote. Okay, yeah, you count now. But after that, it is what it is, So I think even with us as the black community, we have to do better with ourselves. We don't support ourselves enough neither. It is what it is on that end.
What do you think about like the church community though? So like, so I guess I've always been intrigued by, how the church is viewed, because we should be different, right? But sometimes it seems like the church is not really that much of a difference from Monday morning to Sunday morning, right?
Right.
So how do you bridge that gap? How do you figure out what are some things that you've noticed just as the church as a whole? I'm not necessarily specifically talking about your church. Yeah. Just the church in general. How do we approach race relations in 2024?
It kind of goes back to what I just was saying. It's like this. We need to have that conversation that needs to be had, because there is a line there. There's a line, and you can tell. Like, some people don't even want to talk about it. They'll rather just go about their business, but then you see it in their actions. So as far as the church goes, the church community as a whole, I think there are lines there that stop us and block us from getting to where we need to be, because that conversation needs to be had. I think there's an underlying up under there that that actually stops us from being on that same level. Sometimes it's weird. You feel it. And you see it when you see it, and you know it when you know it. And as a black man, you be like, okay, all right.
Yeah, you were telling me a story, I think that happened in the airport a couple of days ago or whatever. We were traveling, and like somebody moving because y'all sat there or something. Yeah. And it's like it's so difficult to hear those conversations today, because it's like I don't see that necessarily the way you do. Like, you noticed it. I wouldn't have noticed that or picked up on it necessarily. So it definitely is something that's still there. And I guess I'm just curious, like, as a church or as that community, what's the best outlook for that, or what's the future look like? How do we change the culture?
The way we change the culture is really get into Jesus culture, really be who Jesus was. Jesus never looked at culture.
Go back to what you said,
right?
Be Christ, love like Christ.
That's it. He never had any picks and chooses. You know, everybody was level playing, man. Like what you were saying about what happened in the airport. The woman left from right where we are. You had a whole corner spot, a whole bunch of room, and you went sit where more people was. And we was sitting there like, well, nah, if this ain't something. Like, what was it? Because I'm a big guy? I don't know. Yeah. Cheryl was too small? I don't know. But it was weird. So when you know. But I think it changes through us really getting like Christ, man. Really getting like Christ. Don't have any picks and chooses. Love on everybody. I know everybody is not at everybody's level, but, you know, try to pull somebody up to your level if they're not at your level. You know, trying to help others, man. You know, that's the best way I could describe that. I believe that we can change that culture if we put on that Jesus culture, like really put it on.
Well, and I think, you know, too, one of the things that's important is, you know, they talk about racism as taught, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that needs to be something that's even addressed in the church community as a whole. It's like, hey, you know, trying to teach your children the right way to treat people.
Right.
And like, you know, it's definitely something that's been a struggle because I think the media, the narrative, they want to divide. They want to divide the culture.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm not even talking black and white. It's rich and poor. It's, you know, Mexico and the United States. It's anything that they can do to divide. Yeah. They try to bring division.
They love division.
And because there was even some questions, like I forgot what event it was, but like my child asked me a question and I'm like, where did you even get that from? And he saw it on the media. He saw it on the news. Well, this is what happened. Like, why do we think that way? And I'm like, well, we don't think that way. Like, we're Christians. We're not supposed to think like that. Right. And so I think it's hard just in this society to really to instill those values. And I think it's even harder now. I mean, you look at, you know, when my kids were growing up, there was no iPhones. There was no like they've got everything in the palm of their hand now.
Everything.
You know, where pornography is, they don't have to go find a magazine or go, you know, they can just pull up their phone and get to anything they want to get to.
Easy access.
So I think society as a whole has just changed. And I don't know that it's changed for the better. You know, technology it's just like anything else. It could be used for good. It could be used for evil. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what's hard to try to encourage your children and train them in the right way. When they have all this negative influence around them, it's just it's very difficult. Right.
One of the things I learned too, bro, is how you can tell. Just watch them fruits. Yeah. You can tell what a person's intentions are, and just watch the fruits. Like watch what they do. Watch how they support you. Watch how they back you. Watch how they stand with you, whether it's good or bad. Like, that's how you know who a true one is. Just watch the fruits. And that's what I watch. I watch people fruits. You know, like you were saying earlier, that's the same way I feel about you. You know, I feel, you know, a brotherhood and I feel family. Like, I trust you. That's why we can go somewhere and I can do the things we do. Like,
let's not talk about all the white people stuff I make you do, all right?
But I'm just saying, like, okay, if Paul can do it, I can do it, you know? So watch the fruits. And the fruits ain't gonna go wrong. You can tell if they good or rotten.
It was so funny to me when we went to the eclipse and you screamed. I forgot what you said, but I was so mad because my phone was on mute, so I didn't even get it on a recording. But I was like, did he just say what I think he said? Just to be clear, I think, what did you say?
I say I love being around white people.
We were at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I've always been like, why would anybody go watch cars run around the track? Right. And then when they were doing that that test run, I'm like, I want to come back to the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah. And a guy told me out there, he said, man, you need to make a trip to come see that. He said, your life is going to change. I was like, okay.
Well, it's in like 50 days, so we need to see about going back over there.
Let's go.
But hey, going back to really your childhood and kind of the Donnie Bolden we know today. Obviously, there's been a lot of people that have helped mold who you are. Right, your life is basically the sum total of all the people that you've met and known and who've poured into you and all that. Who were some of your mentors? Who influenced you the most, I guess?
Music wise or just anything?
Both. How about that? Give me some music and not music influencers.
So first, my mom and my dad. Man. My mom passed in 2017. She was the highlight of my life, everything, bro. And my mom actually started singing at a young age herself. My mom actually went audition for the Apollo. And I got a chance to go to New York, man. Just some of the things, that's how much passion that I got from my mom. I got a chance to go to New York, and I went to the Apollo and just to visit because I wanted to just experience what she experienced. My dad was one of the hardest working cats you want to know.
It still is.
Still is. And, man, he's still fighting for the Lord, man, still ministering and doing his thing. And as far as musically, I want to say one of my favorite singers of all time is Marvin Gaye.
Okay.
Like Marvin Gaye, I just love his take. When I first heard his voice, man, I was like, bro, man, who's this cat, man? And so musically, that was, and of course, in the gospel side, Commission, Fred Hammond, the Winans, Marvin Winans, man, so many, man. I can go on and on, but those are the cats. The Clark sisters. They all influenced my music. Like, I love music. I learned music through them.
Yeah.
In other words, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So, you mentioned your mom. I know just from things we've talked about, but I want other people to hear these stories that you tell me sometimes. So,
yeah, man.
What's the I know she had a prophetic gifting on her life.
Oh yeah.
And I know you've mentioned this. So, kind of what was that prophetic gift over your life?
Man, so I remember when I was young at about 5 years old, and I mentioned that earlier, how I was seeing crystals or whatever. I remember her just laying hands on me. It was at our church. It was a yellow tin building. It used to be an old, used to fix like engines and all kind of stuff. And that was like the first church that I remember besides in the house. And I remember her laying hands on me and said, listen, you're going to play every instrument you put your hands to. And I just remember putting my hands up and going out in the presence of God. And when I came to, I just felt different. And as I got older, I began to dabble with instruments and piano and drums and every instrument I put my hand to.
Even last week, you told me you were like trying to learn guitar now.
Oh, yeah.
So you're still learning.
Oh, yeah. I'm still learning. I'm still, every instrument I put my hand to, bro, I'm serious. I was playing it. Like, it didn't matter. My first instrument actually was a comb.
All right.
And a piece of paper. That's what we had. And I used to blow through it. And we made that. And then a drum set was a chair. That's the first thing. That's all we could afford. And I never forget that. And so my mom anointed my hands. And, man, just from then on, I just had to cultivate and just move on what God has spoke over my life through my mom.
And so how is what you're doing today, you're like, and I was not joking with you're the greatest worship leader that I've met personally, as far as like, you're my favorite.
Wow, wow, man.
There's a lot of worship leaders I love, but having that personal time with you, I guess, is obviously what changes that, and gives me the confidence in what you do.
Yeah,
I love getting to see that and watch it from a distance.
Yeah, yeah, bro.
But I guess the other point is you do the national anthem all over the place. You're like, what is the most fun you've had in an environment like that, or if you had to pick one thing that's been kind of a standout thing to you, what would you say that is?
Man, I really want to say, man, to be honest with you, man, I love doing life series, bro. I really love it because, for the simple fact, one of my things is about ministry. I love the fact when they call me and they say, "Hey, Donnie, we need you to do the meet and greet." They just don't know what they do for me. Like, okay, let's go. It's not about even going taking pictures. For instance, we was just in Dallas like a month ago. Go to the meet and greet. They got people in line for pictures, boom, 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 whatever. But this particular one guy, he comes up to me and he began to tell me what he's going through. And his wife standing right there, and you can just see in her eyes like he needs help, you know. And man, I got a chance to minister to that dude and pray with him. Gave him my number and my Facebook. I'm catching chills talking about it. And that's the best part to me, because I get to minister to people.
The connection.
Oh my God, bro. Like, dude hit me up, he said, "You just don't know. Like, I really needed that. Like, thank you."
I think too that, that's interesting just in general with society. And I know I've done this. I'm 100% guilty of this, just like anybody else. But you kind of don't know what somebody's going through, right? And like you may be short with them, which, I mean, again, guilty.
So we've all done it.
You don't know what's on the other side of that person's life, or what the persona that they're giving you at the time. And I do think that's interesting. An interesting way that you're able to minister to people, even when it's something that it seems insignificant, that they just want a picture with me, but then it opens those doors for you to talk to them, and really, and I think that's a testament of your discernment and kind of that gifting that you have of just being able to encourage people. I mean, look, there's never a room I'm in that you're in that I'm not like, you make everybody around you like happy, just like, excited, man, and things like that. You lift those spirits of people. Yeah, I think, bro, off the stage and on the stage.
Man, praise God, man.
And I think that's really an interesting way to look at kind of an extension of your worship is to minister to people.
Yeah, right? Man. And the other part of that, as far as on the singing side, like, I did the jazz festival for like 7 years straight. That was huge for me, because being on a jazz festival stage with all kind of music going on, like every genre you want to name, and being able to spread the gospel through that was awesome as well. Like, just to be able to have a chance to be a light for people with that as well. I got a chance to minister to so many people, man. Like,
so, you did Jazz Fest for a while. You've done a lot of the festivals, and like I said, anthems and all that. I mean, you've done LSU, you've done some baseball games, basketball games. You did the Pelicans recently.
I did a soccer game too.
Soccer game. All right. Didn't know. I don't know. I don't watch soccer, so I didn't even know you did the national anthem at a soccer game. But I assume. Now you threw me off with that. I don't know where I was going. Let me see here. So let's go. Now I want to go back to some church stuff. So let's talk about some church for a minute. We talked about kind of your influence there. What is, how do you, as all of these things are changing, I mean, society as a whole is just changing, and the church has changed a lot. We talked about that culturally. But as a worship leader, how do you kind of balance the tradition of church and the tradition of worship through kind of what the new feel and the new way of worship is? How do you balance that?
Well, it's very hard, man, because like you just said about the transition of church, everybody, they're worshiping different now. It's just a different type of dispensation of time. Let me use that term. Like,
dispensation of time.
Yeah, it's just totally different. Like, it's just where we are right now, man. It's so hard to target it. So you have to go in knowing, once again, that you're singing for one. Because everything you said is kind of tying into you don't know what somebody's going through that day. You don't know what type of strength they need that day. You might be going through yourself, and you just have to, as far as a worship leader, you have to buckle down and just say, hey, look, just understand this might be your one chance to help somebody out today. You might not ever see them again. So make sure you're on your P's and Q's. Do whatever you have to do to get them where they need to be. You get where you need to be. And that's basically it. That's how I go into it. Because it's such a huge difference now the way a lot of people do worship. It's just different, It's just different, bro.
How important is that to just the believer worship in general? I think our attention spans are so short now. I mean, you're talking, I remember, when TikTok came out and it was like, who's going to sit there and just watch 3-minute videos and then, or 30-second videos, and then, 3 hours later, you're still scrolling, and it's like,
right.
But your attention span, you're consuming all of this information that you're able to consume a lot more of it. And I think we get so busy, we get so caught up in some of those things that just kind of that are just a time suck, and you're spending all that time, and it's like, but when we go to church, we're like, oh, we got to get out of here, like we got to hurry,
bro.
So how do you I remember we visited your church, and I remember it was the nicest, like the people were the nicest people. Like,
say that again. What church was that?
I think every single person, I think, hugged my neck.
What was the name of that church?
Lighthouse.
For who? For
Lighthouse
Jesus?
for Jesus.
Oh my God. Hey, we just got a shout out.
But literally, I mean, we were there, and like, we were just sitting me and my wife were sitting on the back row, and like, and it was a long service. I'll tell you that. It was a long service. But it was much longer than I was used to. But
I had a talk with my dad. I said, Dad, can we hold it to 45 minutes? Paul coming today.
But it was almost going back to the days where you would have church, and then you'd have like a potluck dinner on the grounds and things like that. It was just so, like, I remember the things that I remember the most about growing up in church is like that it's just not done anymore. Like, there's not a Sunday night service. We'd go spend all day at church on a Sunday. We would have the service in the morning. You'd go back at night. You go back on Wednesday. You do Bible study. Like, and now it's just like you have a hard time just keeping people's attention for, if worship's more than 15 minutes.
Yeah. I
got to get out of here. I got to go, or they'll come 15 minutes late because they don't want to be here for worship. They want to be here for the sermon, So I think when you look at a church or a service and y'all are talking about what that looks like to you, is the service more for the people, or is it for the newcomer? And how do you bridge that? Because it's like the people that have been kind of, that it's one thing to cater to them, but then new people might come, and it's like how it seems like such a delicate balance. And how do you overcome that?
Well, I want to say this: a lot of people, man, the reason why they feel that way because that's all they done was church.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. All they did was church. And I'm not a big believer on personal relationship with Christ. I'm sorry, because it's a given to me. You should have a personal relationship with Christ. Like,
I think what you mean is you don't, like, I don't need to go to church.
Yeah.
I can just have a personal relationship. What you meant.
That's what I mean. Like, it's a given. You should have a personal relationship. Right. To me, it's like breathing. He's the air that we breathe. This is the air that I breathe. So that's a given, and it goes back to what you're saying about TikTok. We give so much time to the social media. I've been guilty of it, and I had to catch myself a few times to where we don't give God that time because all we was doing was church. So, okay, church starts at 8. We need to get out of here at 9. Let's just do church instead of it being experiencing the presence of God, being with the people of God. I think we've gotten out of that, and we give so much time to so much. I mean, everything else is good. As long as everything, we can do this. But when it come down to church, it's like, it need to be a quick. Let's make it happen quick.
Now church, I guess it's hard. I guess I would equate it to kind of, as a business owner, and I've had this conversation with people before. I don't get to go home. I don't punch the clock 8 to 5 and forget about everything. Like, my life and my business are so intertwined, and the only thing I can explain about church for me, and like your relationship with Christ should be the same way. Like, there should be no variation of, like, it's just how you live your life. Like, okay, it's not, I'm not taking this off and putting this hat on, and I'm going to go be this. And
that's how I look at it, bro. You just explained something to me. That was it. Yeah.
And it really is that, like, it's, when I try to explain to somebody that, as a business owner, how you just don't turn that side of, like, it's all intertwined to me, and it's very difficult to have that separation. But then when I think about it from the spiritual side, well, there shouldn't be that separation. There shouldn't be church on Sunday and then everything else, and like, oh, I got to go give my nod to God here. So I was talking to somebody over the weekend, actually, at one of the events we had, and they asked me this question. So I wanted to ask you this: if Jesus asked you right now, Donnie, trust me, it's not that heavy. I mean, maybe your answer is, but the question's not that heavy. If Jesus asked you right now, Donnie, what can I do for you? What would you say?
That's tough, bro. Just make sure my name written in the Lounge Book of Life. Just make sure my name.
It's like, what can he do that he hadn't already done, right?
Right. Just make sure my name on there. According to the word, just make sure my name on there, man. Yeah.
Church is, I guess one of the things that I've always heard growing up in church. Hey, this is supposed to be what heaven's like, right? But then you go back and you look at society, how much we've talked about that, how much it's changed. Go back and think about, like, how things were before these towns were settled, and you got all these people that are, like, coming across the United States. They would start a town. Well, what's the first thing they would do? They got to have a church. Like, it was such a very huge, crucial part of society, of the community, of the city. Like, they'd have the railroad, they'd have the school, they'd have the church. They'd have to have those things. And so much so that you'd have, like, a First Baptist Church or a First Assembly of God. And now it's like, if this guy says the wrong thing, we're just going to go start our own church, or we're going to start our own denomination, or we're going to start.
Or we don't like them, or a conversation started about them that we didn't approach them about, and we just going to go on because we heard. Yeah.
But I guess, that's where I struggle with, the church as a whole, where society just doesn't value the church. And part of it, I think, is our fault, because it's like, if you have so much infighting and y'all can't even agree on what the Bible says, why would I come?
Right, man.
So how do you change that? Like, what are some practical things you can do to try to kind of go back to the way things used to be, and not that I think we'll ever get to that point again, but I guess that's my question. Like, what do you think is what's a good step to start that process?
So what I find, man, once again, over my years of being in church and in ministry and being a part of other churches, going, sing, worship, as well as sitting in and listening to what that minister was speaking about, I don't think there will ever come a day where that would change, as long as man has his own mind and his own perspective. Like, that's why the Bible says about us, I don't remember exactly where it is, but says to rightly divide the word in truth. When we divide it in truth and what it says and what it actually meant. But then in some aspects of the Bible, you have to be careful because it was actually meant for that moment. When it happened, it was for that moment. It wasn't for this.
Donnie?
It wasn't for this. That's what a lot of people don't get. Like a lot of the old laws, they drag them over into, well, no, we still believe in the Old Testament. We still believe what God said. But then when Jesus came to fulfill the law, everything changed. So I believe that people with their own mind and their own perspective will never change. I think as long as we have our own will, that's what happened when God gave us our own will. They're going to believe what they're going to believe. They're going to say what they're going to say. We just got to learn how to come together and not say accept, but learn how to agree to disagree. Like, okay, that's the way you believe it? All right. I just think a lot of time we get into arguments with people that, like one time I used to argue with this guy every day about, I'm not going to say what we arguing about. I just can't, because that's a whole nother podcast. But he was, such and such, this is what the Bible say. Well, I had scripture to back that up as well. Well, this is what the Bible says right here. Well, and then I finally got to say, well, look, how about this? How about we wait till we meet Jesus, and then we'll see what Jesus said about that. And that's my mentality right now. I'm not arguing about nothing that's not helping me or you. I just want to help people get into heaven with me. That's about it. That's all I think about now.
So, that kind of leads me to my next question.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be hard. It's a hard question to answer.
My God.
So, what do you think heaven's like?
Oh man, I want to say it's going to be beautiful. I want to say that when he says he goes to prepare a place for us, when the key word is there, prepare. That means it's going to be a special place. I just, screech paved with gold. The way the word says, that's how I believe it is. We're going to be singing and rejoicing. And I believe it's going to be a beautiful place. That's the best way I can describe it. Now, I can imagine. I remember one time I asked my dad if there's going to have go-karts in heaven. Like, it's like, I never forget that. I asked him, he said, son, I don't know. But I believe it's just going to be a beautiful place.
The boiled crawfish on the table.
Come on now.
We good, right?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, you don't eat seafood. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue. So what's your favorite food?
Man, my favorite food is meatloaf and potatoes, man. And my wife almost changed my mind because she make this great taco soup. I can eat that for days.
I remember I think we came to your house for one of the Alabama games. Might have been the national championship a couple years ago, and you had this ghost pepper sauce or something you put in your gumbo. So it's I guess you like spicy food.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Was it ghost? It was ghost pepper sauce.
Yeah, I just ate something earlier with some gumbo.
I got you.
Yeah.
Oh man, what do you feel like is your number one? Obviously we know that you're called to do what you're doing. I believe that. I think I don't think anybody would argue that's seen you in person. But what do you feel like is the next thing for Donnie? What are you going to be? What's the next thing you're going after?
Man, I just. We've talked about this as well, man. I just really want to start being consistent with putting more content as far as music out there, and also just moving forward in life, man. Like I know I've been called to pastor as well, and I've been helping my dad, my brother, and I and our family keep the ministry going, and so I know there's going to be some point to where. We're going to take the reins when he retires or whatever. And so I think that's my next phase. But as far as music, I want to just continue to be consistent in writing these songs, man, just to, encourage people, man. That's basically where I'm at right now.
Every employee that I've interviewed, everyone that submits an application with my company, I always ask them this question. And so I'm interested to hear what your answer on this is.
I'm about to get fired already.
So I asked him the question, would you say that you're more hungry or humble? There's no wrong answer.
Wow. Ask me that again.
Are you more hungry or humble?
Man, bro, that's a good
Did I just
question.
make Donnie Bolden speechless?
Bro. Because I'm always hungry.
Yep.
I'm always hungry. And I try my best to be humble. But I want to say hungry. Like I thirst every day. I just want to grow. I want to be better and continue to do the work of the Lord.
Because most people try to like analyze what I mean by that question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I got to answer it where I'm a good mix of both. Like, no, I don't want to know all that. Like,
Yeah.
which it's no problem. It just
I'm
you're more
hungry.
hungry or humble.
I'm hungry. I want more. I really do.
I think you do a very good job of being humble too. By the way, just to point that out. But I think in general, you're I think you are hungry. I've seen it. Like I've seen, you're always striving for the next thing, the next latest and greatest, and it's really not. If people, it can be viewed as not prideful, but like, oh, Donnie's just trying to elevate himself. But man, I've seen the behind the scenes. I've seen some of the struggles. I don't know all of the struggles, but like I said, I've seen where you're just worshiping for you, and it's definitely something where they say God opens doors that no man can open. And I believe that. I think I've seen that in your life and in the last couple of years. I think you do such a good job of balancing the hunger and the humbleness.
Yeah.
That's why I was just curious what your answer to that question
man,
was.
that's a good question, bro. I might use that myself. Are you hungry or are you humble?
So Donnie, what's the obviously you want to do more music, you want to do some things with the church and all of that. All of the things that you've done up until this point, I think have really kind of set you up for the success that you're seeing.
Yeah.
And I don't say that in a prideful way at all. I don't think you mean it that way.
Yeah.
As far as success, I mean, obviously you're having some success there. When you sit down and try to write a song, like it's very intriguing to me, because I don't understand it. I run sound. I love running sound. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I don't have any music talent. I don't play an instrument. I don't know music.
Yeah.
How do you sit down and like take something that's in your spirit, your mind, whatever you're thinking about, and formulate it into something that's like an actual coherent thought?
Man, listen, writing songs is one of the most toughest things for me because I've never been to any writing school. I just wrote from off just whatever God gave me at the time. But I remember one time it took me a year to write a song. I wrote a song called Blue Sky, and I just was trying to find the words. And one of my aunties got real sick. She was diagnosed with kidney failure. They rushed her to the hospital in Houston, Texas. And the first lyrics I had is like, broken promises and shattered dreams, hopeless thoughts were doing me. Life goes on till your time is spent. The cross you bear is so heavy then. And I was like, man, I don't know what else to write. And then when my auntie went to the hospital, I was sitting looking out my window. And he said, she's about to die, so y'all pray. I said, don't take away my blue skies. You said everything will be all right. Now mind you, that was a year later after I wrote the first lyrics. So it was the toughest thing. So that's why I know that there's a God, because the giftings that are in you, that are in me, like they are displayed every day. And everything we look at, that's a song. When you think about your wife, when you think about the nice car you have or whatever it is, when you think about anything, the goodness of God, that's when, the writing comes in and, you can really just dwell there. I just sit there and you just start writing down things. And Fred Hammond taught me this. He told me one time, he said, nothing's stupid. He said, never look at it like it's stupid. He said, write it down and just remember, you might could use it one day. So, yeah.
I guess a follow-up to that, words are one thing, but how do you figure out the melody?
The
How do you
melody?
figure out the music, the notes, what goes together to make this work? Like you just saying that, like how did you come up with that was the musical notes?
That's when the gifting part comes. We all been blessed with a gift, some type of gift. Like, man, if I could do what you could do, man, that'd be amazing. I can't, right? But the gift that I have is the gift of melody. I can pick up a melody. I love melodies. I can make up a melody, and you can hear it. You can hear it in the flow of the spirit. You can hear it in the flow of your mind. And then especially if you can play any instrument, you can pick it up and just start doing it. That's how the melody comes along. And then after that, it's called muscle memory. Okay, this is what I remember. Boom, boom, boom.
I remember when I was a kid, we went to Crossroads at the time. It was Bethel Assembly of God, and I remember seeing Pastor Jeff was the youth pastor at the time, and I'm like, man, it was so cool. Like I'd go home. I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I'm like, I'd go pretend I was him. I'm up there playing guitar, singing worship, and I have no musical ability whatsoever. But I always wanted. I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to be a worship leader. And so I'm asking you, like, obviously I've witnessed the church in Abbeville. I've witnessed you leading worship there. I've witnessed you in sound check leading worship by yourself. I've witnessed you in front of 10,000 people at some of these events that we do, and it's like you're consistent in your worship. But on the personal side, let me just talk that for a minute. There's got to be something. I never played sports either, but there's got to be something. Like when you step out on that football field and you have all these people cheering and all that stuff, there's got to be something that moves you when it's got to be different when you're leading people than it is just you. And I know it's obviously to the audience of one.
Yeah.
But there has to be something that, like, what does that feel like? What does that do for you when you hear all these people singing that you're leading?
Man. It's such a powerful feeling, and to me it's unexplainable what it does for me, especially when people are worshiping along with you and they're engaging with you. That's like, it kind of reminds me of no, I don't want to use it. Maybe I can say Gladiator. When Russell Crowe was in there and you could feel the crowd, the energy, man. It's like the first time we did Orlando, perfect example. Man,
that was the first Life Surge.
That was the first Life Surge, and it was crazy because, Sean and a few others, they was like, yeah, that's the guy right here. He's leading worship. He took on spot. He was playing with me, right? It's like, dude, why you introducing me like that? Just Donnie Bolden Jr. Let's leave it like that. So, man, I got a little jittery, man, and I was like, bro, why is he doing this? I guess he just picking or whatever. But when I got out there and God told me, he said, listen, he said, this is what I want you to do. He said, I want you to introduce yourself to the people and then ask them to introduce themselves to you. And when I did that and everybody said their name, is the power that came in that room. And you was there. Like, it just, the energy, man, it was just so powerful. And that makes me happy, especially when I see people just worshiping with me and just engaging with the presence of God, lifting up hands. And I mean, it's crazy awesome. Yeah, man. Yeah, bro.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what gets me.
Would you say, there's a lot of things that I think we go through life and sometimes you never... it's got to be very sad for somebody to go through life and not know what their calling is. How do you help people? Because I've seen you, like you were just talking about that guy that you were talking to. I think you help encourage people. Like, that's one thing that, and maybe you don't notice that about yourself, and maybe that's not a gifting you think you may have, but you are an encourager. Like, every time you're always encouraging somebody, you're always telling them, compliments and things like that. You're just, you're definitely doing those things. But what would you say to somebody that doesn't know what their calling is, or they may not have found out what they're supposed to be doing with their life?
I would say it's just this simple: keep going till you find it. Because there's a lot of people, man, even my wife, there were instances we've had conversation, and she don't mind me saying this, to where she was like, Donnie, you do all kind of stuff. Like you're in everything, and I'm just laid back. And what's my calling? And I told her, I say, your calling is great. At the end of the day, when you find it, you're gonna know what it is. You never, don't ever discount yourself out. Once you find it, it's just like for me, at 8 years old, I knew it. When I found it, I didn't want to take it for granted. And until now, I don't take it for granted. I'm going to hold on to it because the gift that's in me is the same gift that is in you. It might be something different, but you have some type of gift. And when you find it, man, cherish that thing and work the heck out of it. And look, I'm serious. Utilize that thing, until you can't no more. Yep.
All right, I got one more question.
All right.
And we'll wrap up. What is the one thing other than, your life with Christ? I know that's number one, but what's the one thing you want people to know about Donnie Bolden Jr.?
I love to talk with people and, like you say, encourage people, man. That's about it.
Well, I will say you are also a prankster, and you always cut up, and you do that. And I'll tell you my favorite story about us is when we went. Well, I don't know. Estes Park was pretty funny whenever I scared my wife, but my favorite story with me and you was when we went to see the Golden Gate Bridge at like 2 a.m. or something crazy.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm claustrophobic. And I thought you were joking. So I'm laughing and you're like, roll down the window. And it was so funny. I'm like, I was just laughing, not even thinking anything about it. And with that whole thing, man, just doing those experiences, like doing life with you,
bro,
has just been fun.
Man, it's been great, bro.
Definitely appreciate you as a friend, as a brother in Christ, as just being able to do life with you has been absolutely awesome. I'm honored to know you, and thank you for sitting down and talking to me for a little while.
Thank you for having me, bro. This is a highlight of my life.
Well, I definitely want to encourage everybody to go follow Donnie Bolden Jr. on social media. He loves to connect with you. I know he would. And we thank you for watching. Vital Integrators is presenting this podcast called Lunch Chats. So hopefully we'll have some other people we can talk to and just sit down and discuss some things with them as you're eating lunch.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it a little short so you can watch it over a lunch break.
It's going to be big.
And hopefully y'all got something out of it. Comment below if you got anybody that you'd like us to talk to.
Yeah.
And, maybe we'll have you come in and host, and we can tag team on some future ones.
Man, let's do this, bro.
All right. I appreciate it, Donnie. Thank you.